All right, today we're going to get into a story that really doesn't pull any punches. We're talking about the big stuff, love, the raw, unfiltered reality of pain, and that desperate search for meaning when your own life feels like it could end mid-sentence. Let's dive in. Right from the jump, the story hits you with a line like this: "The price of dawn is blood." Now, this actually comes from a book within the book, some pulpy sci-fi thing. But wow, does this simple, kind of brutal phrase just perfectly set the tone for everything that follows. It's a world where the humor is dark, life is incredibly precious, and you get the sense that every single new day costs something.
So, at the center of this world is our narrator, Hazel Grace Lancaster, and she has this amazing way of describing herself. She doesn't just have cancer, she says her job, her role in life, is being a professional sick person. And that's not just a clever label, it's a whole worldview. It colors every single part of her day.
And this slide, this really gives you a snapshot of the strange mix of the totally mundane and the kind of surreal in Hazel's life. I mean, her daily routine is this blend of medical necessity, like unhooking from her oxygen concentrator, which she's hilariously named Philip, and then dealing with her mom's celebration maximization. It's a life absolutely defined by her illness, but she filters all of it through this sharp, sarcastic wit that stops her from ever just being a victim.
Now, a huge part of how Hazel copes with her world, how she makes sense of it, is through books. And in this story, we see two very, very different novels that act like mirrors, reflecting two completely different ways of dealing with a reality that's just overwhelming.
And you can see that contrast play out perfectly right here. On one side, you've got The Price of Dawn. It's pure escape, right? Infinite fiction, where the hero, Max Mayhem, he always survives. There's always going to be another sequel. It's simple. But then you have an Imperial Affliction, a book that is painfully real. Its narrator, Anna, she even calls herself the side effect, and her story just stops, abruptly, mid-sentence. It perfectly reflects that brutal reality that, life doesn't always give you a neat ending.
Hazel's frustration here isn't really just about a book. It's so much deeper. It's about her own life. When your own future is a giant question mark, you crave answers. You need to know what happens to the people who are left behind. Her obsession with this book's ending, it's really an obsession with finding some kind of meaning, some closure, in a world that just doesn't offer any.
And this struggle for meaning, it absolutely extends into her relationships, especially her friendships, where she feels this profound, kind of heartbreaking disconnect from the so-called normal world.
We see this so clearly when she takes a trip to the mall with her old friend Kaitlyn. Kaitlyn lives in this totally different universe of boys who are downright edible and a social life that's scheduled down to the minute. It's a world Hazel recognizes, a world she used to be part of, but now she's just an observer, an outsider looking in.
And here it is. This is the emotional core of her isolation. It's not that her friends are bad people or that they don't care, it's that they just can't possibly understand. Her illness isn't something to get through, it's her permanent reality. And that creates this chasm, this gap, that good intentions alone just can't bridge.
But then Augustus Waters comes along, and their connection isn't about trying to navigate that chasm between sickness and health, it's built on a shared reality. Their bond is like instantly forged because they're both obsessed with an Imperial Affliction, that one book that so perfectly gets their world.
Okay, so this brings us to a really pivotal scene, a moment where all these theoretical ideas about pain and suffering, well, they suddenly become terrifyingly real. Hazel gets a call to come over to Augustus's house because their friend Isaac is having a complete and total breakdown.
So Isaac is about to go completely blind, and to make matters worse, his girlfriend just broke up with him. And his grief isn't quiet, it's a physical, violent explosion. It starts with these gut-wrenching sobs, it escalates to him just kicking the crap out of a gaming chair, and it ends with him grabbing Augustus's old basketball trophies and just one by one smashing them to pieces on the floor. It's pure, unfiltered rage and despair. And right in the middle of all this chaos, Augustus turns to Hazel and says this, quoting a line directly from their favorite book, An Imperial Affliction. It's this incredible moment where the literary truth they've been talking about suddenly becomes a lived reality. Pain isn't some idea you analyze. It's a force, and it demands to be felt.
After this, Augustus offers up this whole philosophy that's kind of born from this moment. In their video game, he just sacrificed his character to save some fictional kids, and he tells Hazel all salvation is temporary. See, for him, the point isn't about finding a permanent cure or a final victory. The real heroism is in the small, temporary acts. Buying someone a minute, an hour, a year. Because, as he says, that's not nothing.
So from the wreckage of Isaac's breakdown, literally with smashed trophies all over the floor, and emotionally, this incredibly profound conversation about love and promises starts to take shape. And this is where the story's central theme really just clicks into place. Isaac's agony isn't just about the breakup itself, it's about the breaking of a promise. His girlfriend had promised him always, a word that now just feels like a cruel, empty joke. And his question just hangs there in the air, so raw and desperate. How can something that's supposed to be absolute just be so fragile?
And then Isaac, through his tears, he kind of answers his own question. He realizes that people don't always get what they're promising. But true love, he says true love is keeping the promise anyway. Even when it's hard, even when it feels impossible, it's just such a simple, gut-wrenching, and incredibly powerful definition of love, born right out of pure pain.
And that's where we're left. If Augustus is right and all salvation really is temporary, and if Isaac is right that love means keeping the promise of always, how do you make those two things work together? How do you promise forever in a world that's made of finite moments? It's the core tension not just for these characters, but really for anyone who has ever tried to love someone in the face of uncertainty.